WhiskyCast is supported by Glenfiddich, the world's most awarded single malt. To join other single malt appreciators for exclusive news, vintage releases and preferred events, visit glenfiddich.com.
WhiskyCast. Proudly brought to you by Redbreast, the definitive single pot still Irish whiskey. Join the Stillhouse at singlepotstill.com and receive an exclusive whiskey tasting journal.
Kirby, Wyoming. 92 people, hundreds of cattle, and one bar. Most days, a train coming through town was the highlight of the day in this old mining town. That changed a few years ago when some folks from Jackson Hole thought that Kirby might be a good place to make whiskey. Brad and Kate Mead had bought a ranch in Kirby to expand their cattle business, and they called their former law partner, David DeFazio, in for a chat.
It felt very much like the principal's office because, Kate comes in, closes the door behind me. It's very quiet. They're both staring at me. And I guess I've got some sort of Catholic guilt from my upbringing. And I looked at them and was like, what? What did I do? And then Brad said, we'd like to make bourbon. And I said, well, how the hell do you make bourbon? And he goes, that's for you to figure out.
The real story, however, is that the three of us didn't start investigating it. David and Brad started investigating it, and they did by going to Bardstown to the Bourbon Festival.
Right.
I thought it was still in the boondoggle stage, but they came back from Bardstown and Brad announced that he had purchased a still from Vendôme Copper Works, and we were going into the whiskey business.
They found something else in Bardstown. Actually, someone else.
It takes valuable time away.
Steve Nally had retired a couple of years earlier as the master distiller at Maker's Mark. He and his wife Donna were active in the Bourbon Festival, but they had the itch to get back into the business. David DeFazio went to high school for a while in Louisville, and a classmate just happened to be part of the family that owns Vendôme. He put them in touch with the Nallys.
At the time all of this happened, both of us being retired from Maker's Mark, I was working part-time in the Bourbon Festival office back in Bardstown. And that day, my job was to go through all the events and the tickets that people had attended. And Steve and I visited Jackson in 2004, and we fell in love with Wyoming. That day, I came across David DeFazio's name, who had attended the tasting and the gala. And as soon as I saw his name in Jackson, Wyoming, I thought, wow, I'd love to go back there someday. I got home that evening. We have caller ID. Phone rang, David DeFazio, and I'm like, what is he calling us for? So we talked for a few minutes, and I asked a lot of questions. He asked a lot of questions. He jokingly tells everyone that instead of he interviewing me, I interviewed him because I wanted to make sure he was for real. But at the thought of that and what he was proposing, I immediately thought, this is a win-win situation for all of us.
They told me from the start they wanted to produce a premium quality product, a premium bourbon. So that spiked my interest. And then to be able to start a product from the ground up, develop the recipe, put the equipment stuff all in place where it needs to be. I mean, to me, it was just a chance of a lifetime. It was something that I couldn't pass up.
Steve and Donna moved to Wyoming in 2007, and in July of 2009, the first white dog of Wyoming whiskey flowed off the stills. Donna used her expertise from Maker's Mark to set up the visitor's experience, while Steve supervised the entire production process with pure limestone spring water from an aquifer 40 miles away and all of the grain from farms within 100 miles of the distillery. His agreement with the owners? Not a drop gets sold until he said it was ready.
Even though I've sampled some, the owners have sampled a little bit. Nobody in the public has sampled it, and they're all very anxious to get that first taste.
In fact, the people of Wyoming were so anxious to taste Wyoming whiskey that they kept on pestering the governor of Wyoming about it. The governor just happens to be Brad Mead's brother, Matt.
It's absolutely amazing because I travel the state all the time, of course, and I'm not kidding. almost every day I get a question, when's it going to be ready? When's it going to be ready? Wyoming has been, as a state, so excited about this product because it is Wyoming whiskey. And so it's been a lot of fun.
Finally, Steve gave the word. The whiskey would be ready on December 1st, 2012. But there was still one question on everyone's mind. Would the people of Wyoming like Wyoming whiskey?
Morning, folks. How's it going? Good. Follow the leader, please. Sounds good.
They got the answer on December 1st, when nearly 4,000 people descended on Kirby for the party to celebrate Wyoming whiskey's debut.
Oh, man, I think it's huge. You know, I don't know, but I've heard that there's not too many bourbon distilleries on this side of the Mississippi, so, it could be a start or something.
Oh, I think it's great. Yeah, it's really nice to have one in the state, our own whiskey.
Yeah, I think it's going to be highly successful.
They came from as far away as Nebraska and Washington, even a couple of people from Australia, just for the launch of Wyoming whiskey.
Do you want it on the rocks or straight up? Straight up.
The distillery held back about 600 cases for its own sales,
There you go.
and with hundreds of people in line, nearly sold out its own stock.
I think it's phenomenal. They have access to great water and to great grains and a wonderful community. I mean, I think it's an asset to the state and to Washakie County, to Hot Springs County, and Park County.
We hope it makes the state proud. It was important to all of us that it be a Wyoming product, and it was important to all of us that at the end of the day it be considered Wyoming's whiskey. And we think it'll go all across the nation, and we think that people all over the United States will drink this whiskey and think about Wyoming, think about the town of Kirby.
At the end of the day, the people of Wyoming rode off into a dusty sunset, leaving the town of Kirby behind. It'll never be quite the same. For more cask-strength conversation on whiskeys, with the people who make them and the people who drink them, join us each week for WhiskyCast. In Kirby, Wyoming, I'm Mark Gillespie.